Hi, and welcome to Dustin's Kaleidoscope. I am Dustin, and I have the pleasure of being here today with Hans Lundy, who is a muralist. You may have seen some of the murals that he has created locally in South Orange. So we're going to talk to him today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So, Hans, I actually walk by your mural at least, 5 times a week, and I just happened to find out that it was you from social media. So, as I was going through some of your social media, I learned that you have a very vast background. Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah. My name's Hans. I'm a muralist illustrator. I'm also the project manager for Yendor. My background as far as murals is very interesting, actually. So I started out doing a lot of like illustrations. I went to school for illustration.
Okay.
It just so happened that one of my friends, I went to like a mural reveal, right? And one of my friends was like, "Hey, have you met Malcolm?" Which is like my partner now, which is crazy ironic. But we met, and he was the one that kind of introduced me to the mural world and like the graffiti world and everything like that, and like really showed me like the historical background of it and how it ties to like community and all this other stuff. And then I kind of started my own journey when it comes to that, like picking up the spray can, understanding how to break down a wall, understanding how to create an image to connect with community and all that other stuff. So it's been a journey, but I've been like a full-time muralist artist for the past 3 years, and I haven't looked back yet. So
wow.
I must be doing something right.
I can't believe. So I'm thinking about the mural that I've seen, and I'm like, I can't believe that you've done all that in 3 years. Like you've gotten to that point.
Yeah.
So how do you transition from being an illustrator to being a muralist?
So the techniques are similar to what I used to do as far as like canvas work, right? Because when I went to school, I was studying to be an illustrator, but in high school I had a mentor, and he was very strict on me like learning like the old masters techniques and all this other stuff. So like I knew murals, but I knew murals in like the era of like Van Gogh and all this other stuff when they used to like literally chalk up the paint and try to mix it themselves and everything like that.
Right.
But the transition to that was kind of like applying the concepts that I knew about painting into what murals was, right? By putting a base coat, by understanding how to use the different tools to get the details, and how to scale it, and the different ways of scaling and everything like that. So it's kind of like it's kind of like the same concept of a painting, but it's like 10 times more advanced because like a lot of the tools that I use, or as muralists we use, are like construction based. And then like we kind of manipulate the tools for our own use when it comes to the walls.
So when you say you use construction-based tools, what do you mean, like the paint, or do you mean the actual physical tools?
The physical tools.
Really?
Yeah. So like something as simple as like a drill, right? Excuse me. Something as simple as a drill, we use that to mix the actual paint. So like we have like certain tools to mix it, or when it comes to like what you would traditionally use in a studio, as far as like a brush, we would use rollers, but we just don't use it in the traditional way like a painter would just come in and paint. We kind of manipulate the tools so it can have like certain textures, or learn how it actually fits in our style, things like that. And even like learning how to use a boom lift or a regular lift, like a scissor lift and all the other stuff. Like all those are like real construction stuff. So, but like it's necessary to do like a 4-story wall or a 5-story wall or whatever it is.
So when you're doing, so first of all, when you say that you're using a drill, is that to mix the paint?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
it's so thick, I assume.
It's two things. So like depending on like the type of work or type of wall project we're doing or I'm doing, sometimes like we need like I need a primer to put it
Oh,
on the
okay.
wall, or
Okay.
if I am mixing my own like gloss into the paint to make sure that it seals right. So all that other stuff, like it's a whole science to it
Got it.
when it comes to that. But all the tools that like a construction person would use, or a construction man or woman would use, like we're using the same thing and like reinventing it a little bit, or reinventing the use of it for our own benefits. Yeah.
That's amazing. So you mentioned like you have to learn how to use the lift because you might have a 4-story wall or
Yeah,
3-story
yeah.
wall. How do you actually map it out? A big
Oh,
mural
for the
like that?
wall?
Yes.
Oh, see, that's trade secrets right there. I can't
Oh,
even say
okay.
that. No,
Without telling trade secrets, I'm just
no,
trying
I'll
to
tell
like,
you.
how do you do that? Because I've seen some people like
There's,
trace, and then I see some people do it freehand.
yeah, there's a couple ways you could do it. It really depends on, it really depends on the size of the wall, or it depends on like how, or the shape of the wall, right? Because
Okay.
not the same method won't work on the same wall
Oh,
because
really?
of the different shapes. So like there's a project that me and my partner did, right? We did this project in the South Ward in Newark,
Okay.
right? The mural's called Intishaki Shange,
Okay.
right? And it was a wall to contribute to her for all the work that she's done
Right.
for Black women and everything like that, and pushing that agenda. But the problem with the actual wall was there was 3 windows. So like imagine like a square wall, and
Right.
then you have 3 big windows in the middle of it.
Oh,
So
okay.
for like a project like that, it's easier to do. It's easier to do like a projection. So like what we would do is
Oh,
that
okay.
we would like trace in a way the artwork that's supposed to be on there,
Right.
project it at night, and then sketch it out and try to map it through the windows and go around this. Yeah, it's a whole thing, and go around like the objects and everything like that. Um, Another technique that we use a lot would be something called doodle grid, right?
Okay.
Um, let's say if we don't necessarily have the time to I've never used the grid method, so basically like just putting lines on the actual
Yes.
wall.
I've
It
seen.
takes
Yeah.
forever.
Oh,
And
really?
like
Oh.
when it comes to projects, it's all about like getting it done right, but also the speed,
Okay.
right? So the doodle grid is like you'll see us come in, and I'll do a whole bunch of different weird numbers, letters, shapes, and everything like that, and it looks like chaos. But what it's actually used for is an actual grid. So I would take a picture of it and then use like an app such as Procreate or Photoshop, right? And I would use that picture as my base, and then I would take another image, put it on top, and have that as the, and then like bring down the opacity, and it becomes like a map for me to
Okay.
follow when I come to the wall, and I'll just go follow. I'll follow the map of what I
Oh, I
did, and then
see,
just
because it's
draw it on
already
top.
drawn
Yeah, yeah,
on.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you're like, so I notice, at least when I've gone on your social media, most of your murals are on the wall. Do you
Yeah.
do any of them on the ground?
I do. I actually did a project in East Orange for, it was like a Black Lives Matter project,
Oh, okay.
where they took, it was at the, um, oh my gosh, why am I blanking? Village. It's gonna come to me later. But it was for the Black Lives Matter movement, and it was a whole parking lot. We
Oh,
took
okay.
up it was a huge space, but each artist had a letter, and we had to like come in and prime the letter and everything like that, and actually draw on the ground, which is a whole different type of technique.
Yeah.
And even in the midst of that, which was like crazy, there was a rainstorm that happened, and it hailed at the same time. It was,
Oh, man.
yeah, it was that was fun. That
So
was fun.
something like that, where you're dealing with the elements, even if it's on the wall, whether it's on the
On
ground
the
or on the
ground, the
wall.
wall, yeah.
How do you deal with that? Because you can't paint everything in one session.
No, 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 no.
So how do you deal with like maybe the next day, maybe this day is perfect, and the next day it's gonna, it may rain. How do you deal
Deal
with
with the
that?
weather, with Mother Nature and her
Yes,
moods.
yes.
Um, Sometimes it's like I usually map out what's gonna happen throughout the whole week, right? So like, let's say if you were hiring me for a project, I would tell you, and it's like a decent wall, or like maybe 30 feet or something like that, right?
Okay.
What I would do is I would give you like a map out of like what is going to happen each day, but put an extra week on top of it.
Oh,
Right. So like, let's
for
say if
weather.
right.
Okay.
So let's say if the project is going to take me like a week to do, I'll probably tell you 2 weeks just in case.
Right.
But usually the process that I follow, and that has been working for me, would be depending on the condition of the wall. Certain walls it requires, maybe a patch up, maybe it requires to be sanded down or
And
something
you
like
do
that.
all that?
The patch up work I do, but the sanding, like that, I kind of leave that for the actual client.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But when it comes to like, maybe patching up a crack or something like that, depending on what's agreed upon, we would definitely do that.
Okay.
But first would be the priming, then it
Okay.
would be putting like base coats,
Okay.
and then it would be like putting details on the wall.
So once you have that primer on, you're good to go, right?
Yeah.
Because then if it rains or snows or
Yeah,
hails,
we're good.
you're good.
We're
Okay.
good. Yeah.
Okay.
That's no problem. And then once we have like the sketch and the base coat on, that's like a bulk of the work already done.
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah, and then it just, for me, that's the fun part. Like I love doing like the details and all the other stuff. So
Right.
and playing around with the spray cans, and that's always fun. You feel like you're doing something wrong, but you're actually working. So it's like, it's a cool thing.
Right.
But once I start doing the details and all that stuff, like things starts moving a little bit faster. But putting like a strong base coat on top of the wall or on top of the ground is like so important when it comes to doing any type of mural.
And how long do murals usually last?
It depends. So for a standard wall mural, it depends on the condition, right? If it's an interior mural, it'll probably last for 10 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Or longer, depending on like if no one's like damaging it or anything of the sort. But like for a wall that is like an exterior, it would last close to around the same time, but it depends if it's sealed or not, right?
Okay.
So we use something called anti-graffiti, right, coat on top of the walls, which is basically like how you go to like Lowe's or Home Depot?
Yes.
And
There
then,
today.
yep. Oh, me too. And she'll ask for like, and they'll tell you, oh, do you want gloss or eggshell or semi-gloss on the paint?
Right.
So that is technically like the protective layer. That sheen is a protective layer. So it's kind of like the same thing that we put on the wall, which
Okay.
adds another like 5 to 6 years on top of the wall. So it really depends on what is happening on the actual wall. A ground mural is different though. Those usually last maybe 5 years tops.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because of the abuse that happens. People
are
are
walking,
walking,
right.
the cars, rain, snow, hail, and especially nowadays, you don't know what's going to happen with the weather. So you never know.
Right.
But usually, like, they have a lifespan of 5.
Okay, well, we're going to leave that right here. We're going to come back and after we take this break. But I'm Dustin Dumas, and I'm here with Hans Lundy, and we will be right back.
It's an onion.
Hi, and welcome back to Dustin's Kaleidoscope. I am Dustin, and I am here with Hans Lundy, who is a muralist. And at the end of the last segment, you were telling us, part of the process that you use. But, one thing that I was very interested in learning is we see the murals, but can you tell us a little bit about the research that goes into creating the murals?
Yeah. So when it comes to like to any project that I enter, right, or accept to do, There's a ton of research that happens behind the closed doors and everything like that. And I know like it's always like a magical thing when you see like a wall blank and then you see this crazy image on there and you're like, oh my God, what just happened? But like what people don't see is the 2-3 weeks that was spent researching either what the client was asking for or whether if it is like I'll speak to the mural for South Orange, right?
Okay.
So when I saw the project, they wanted something that dealt with like music and dealt with colors, right? So something that I researched something that I researched a lot was what colors affect people's moods, right? And how does that translate to just seeing it or what happens to those to when you see a really nice orange or a purple or a transition to like a blue or anything of the sort. So it really like ties into like color theory. So I wanted to use that into the mural because I know that when it came to, especially with that area, it's such a busy street, but also there's a lot of events that happens there. So I wanted to create something that would correlate to the events that happens, whether if it is a music or a live band playing or dancing, or even just someone deciding to take a seat by the park, and just take a rest, right? But I wanted them to feel that warmth still, even if there's no music. I wanted them to feel it. You know what I'm saying?
Feel that. Yeah.
And even with like the way that like I the characters I chose and everything like that, showing a woman playing saxophone and you see the young boy jumping in the air, with all the instruments around him, you know, showing like inspiration and wanting to do it and everything like that. So it's a ton of research that comes behind it. For murals that are a little bit more heavy into community, it flips into studying and doing research about the actual community, meaning like how long has the community been around? What is the type of people, culture that lives there and everything like that? What does the city stand for? What do the people like to do around that city? And we try to bring all that information into an image. Yeah.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because I think a lot of people may not understand. You know, when they see a mural, they see the beautiful colors, the images, but I don't think most people would understand that you do this research to make sure it's relevant to the community.
Exactly, yep.
And I think that's so important for people to understand because I think sometimes people may just think like, oh, people, they just had a bunch of, paint and then they just did whatever.
No, not at all. Even like even some murals that seem very simple, they're really not, because some of them are actually, I don't know what other artists do, but I'll speak for myself and the people that I've worked with, like, there's a lot of research that comes upon it, and that's what makes a sometimes when someone would ask for a mural, I would tell them, and they're like, oh, I want it now, and I'm like, wait, let's slow down, right? because you kind of have to explain to them the process of actually creating a solid, good mural.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And not something that is just going to be put up and it looks pretty, but something that is going to be put up and it's going to be effective.
Yes.
And effective. And when I speak effectiveness in the sense of like captivating the viewer, it creates a conversation. And what happens after the mural, how do we connect it to community? How are we connected to the people that's surrounding it, So there's a lot of different things that happens when it comes to an actual mural. Yeah.
So we talked a little bit off camera about what the difference is between a muralist and a graffiti artist. Can you just explain to people briefly?
Yeah. So when it comes to like a graffiti artist, there's a lot of rules that happens, right? Or their objective is different from a muralist.
Right.
When it comes to a muralist, we deal with more of of the community, and we deal with more of a client-based type of situation. Or depending on the wall in the space, we might throw something up and ask permission, right?
Okay.
Where a graffiti artist, there is no permission. The goal of it is more so to how fast can I put this up, right? They either do a tag or what they call a throw up, which is like if you ever see like those letters, those really bold letters.
Oh, yes,
and then
yes.
black outline with the white.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's called a throw up. So
okay.
It's about the location. It's about the speed that you can do it, and how, in a way, like how risky can you get with it? Like,
Okay.
so like to look back at it and be like, wow, somebody actually dared to do that and they did it. And most of the time you won't really see graffiti artists like show their face and everything like that, because that's just part of the culture.
Because they're trying not to get
They're
caught.
trying not to get caught,
Okay.
but also they're trying to make sure their name is known.
Oh,
Because a lot of
okay.
times you'll see, like we were talking about Banksy, right?
Right.
So you'll see like a Banksy write up or throw up or anything of the sort. It's mainly about the name and where can you get the name and how risky can you get with putting the name. But
Right.
Banksy is a lot different. But for like a actual like graffiti writer, yeah, that's their niche.
Wow, that's so interesting because
Yeah.
it's totally different from what you
It's
do, which
super
is very
different.
planned.
Yeah.
You do a lot of research and
Yeah.
you take your time with the client, like to determine what is, the best thing.
Yeah.
So do most clients just say like, I have this wall and I just want to put something on it, or do they lead you and say, I'm thinking about this. This is what I would like on it. What do most people
I
do?
deal with both.
Okay.
Really. A lot of clients, sometimes they know exactly what they want.
Okay.
And sometimes like they'll have an idea of what they want, but not necessarily have like an image that ties to it, right?
Oh, okay.
When it
Okay.
comes to both, I work with them a little bit different, right? For the client that knows what they want, it's the battle can be, yes, I'm gonna give you exactly what you're looking for,
Right.
but at the same time, it might need to be tweaked
Okay.
based off of maybe the image that you're looking for is too much, right? Or
Oh,
it
I
has like
see.
so much that it makes it feel chaotic, right? And certain things have to be simplified and brought down
Right.
so that like it's a direct message to what you want to speak about. And then for like a client that doesn't necessarily know exactly what they want, then for me, those clients are fun.
Right.
Because, I mean, both sides are fun, but like the client that doesn't know what they want but have an idea, it leaves me a lot of more room to be more creative,
Okay.
right? And so like it's almost like just taking the concept, but then creating my own spin to the concept,
Right.
and then creating the image.
Right.
So in that sense, we're almost creating the piece together, where with the other side of it, it's taking the piece that's already created and tweaking it.
Got it.
Yeah.
I got it. Okay. So have there been any, right before we started this segment, you were about to tell me about a memorable mural that you did.
We did a project down in the South Ward where we
Okay.
were painting the abandoned buildings, right, in the
Right.
neighborhoods, and
Yes.
going to like 18th Street and 17th Street down in Newark and everything like that. And while I was painting, it was like a boy that was painting. His like really smile, had a big old smile, and then like you see the characters going around it. It was a really cool painting. This was like one of my favorite ones. But this guy came up to me like in the midst of it, and mind you, there's all types of different people walking back and forth and everything
Right.
like that. And this guy comes up to me. He's like, "Yo, what you doing?" And I was like, I'm painting. I'm doing a mural and everything like." He's like, "Yo, man, let me tell you that brought a real smile on my face." He was like, I know you painting a kid and he's smiling, but he's like, "I've seen this building all the time, and it's burnt down, and I'm tired of seeing it." He was like, "But seeing what you painting just brought a smile." He was like, "I saw it the other day, and I'm happy that I actually got to meet you." And like it's like those little moments that it gives you so much energy to continue.
Wow.
Because it's a different appreciation
Right.
for the work. You know, and it was funny because the same guy came the next day. He's like, "Hey man, do you know what they're gonna do with with all this like art?" I was like, "I have absolutely no clue." He was like, "Listen, if they don't do nothing with it, I'm taking this door." I was like, "Hey man, do what you gotta do. Do what you gotta do." He was like, "It's gonna be my door in my house." I was like, "Take it, man, take it." But like those moments, they're priceless. You know, it's because it just like it shows the appreciation that people have when you come in and do work, but also especially like when you've grown up in those type of areas. It gives it a different feel. You know, like you're doing something right for the community. But yeah, that's one of them. I will never forget that guy. I can still see his face to this day. But it was hilarious.
But it shows like how powerful of an impact your murals have on the community.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so cool.
Nah, it is. It is. It really is.
So, are there any new projects that you're doing right now?
Yeah. Right now, I'm currently working on a couple schools.
Okay.
I'm working in
outside
East
or
Orange.
inside or
On
both?
both. If you know East Orange a little bit, you know the school Dionne Warwick.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So currently, we're kind of like renovating like kind of like the whole space.
Oh, okay.
So as soon as you go into the school, like there's like 2 murals that's like right in the entrance and like all that other stuff. So the idea is to take a school that has a lot of history, but bringing it into a modern sense, right? And bringing certain messages within the murals. So every time you walk into the stairway, or every time you walk into a corridor, like there's a image that is like right there that speaks to whether if it is like encouraging the kids or whether if it is showing them an idea of what they could be. So like things like that.
Right.
But that's one of the projects I'm working on. And then we're actually going to do a ground mural soon for East Orange, and then there's a couple in Newark. It's a lot.
Wow.
I'm kind of everywhere a little bit. Yeah.
Well, how can people find? We have like about 30 seconds left.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
can people find out what you're doing, where you are, and that kind of thing?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram. I post all the time. It is solo SOLO _1804.
Okay.
And then you can also find me on my website. It's hanslundy.com, HANSLUNDY.com. Any of those social media platforms except Twitter. I'm not really on Twitter like that.
Okay.
But Facebook, Instagram, and of course my website. You'll find me, and YouTube as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining
problem.
me. This was really a lot of fun. Like, I don't often get to meet the artist of something that I pass by all the time, so I appreciate it.
No
Thank
problem.
you so
It was
much for
a pleasure.
coming on.
Thank you.
I'm Dustin Dumas, and you have been watching Dustin's Kaleidoscope. We will see you next time. Bye.